Alright, hi everyone, how's it going? And welcome to another video. Now I want to do a video today on a series that I just recently watched. I just recently watched Season 1 of the YouTube Red series Cobra Kai. And I have to tell you, I thought it was excellent. So I decided I would do a review of the series, Season 1 of the series, in this video. Just kind of talk about it, tell you about what I thought about it. Because, like I just said, I really thought it was excellent. And I know there were some previews on YouTube where they were promoting it. And I watched the trailers, and I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't know if it would be good. I didn't know if it would be terrible. I just wasn't sure. Well, I watched the first 2 episodes because YouTube will allow you to watch the first 2 episodes for free. Then you have to get YouTube Red. And I have to tell you, I thought it was excellent, so much so that I immediately got YouTube Red. And I was surprised that it was on YouTube Red, because it really seemed like a series that would be on HBO. And with, Game of Thrones not being on now, I was definitely looking for a series. This is definitely the series I was looking for, because it's very well written. The writing is just superb in this series. I think a lot of people who are fans of the original Karate Kid film would definitely like this. Now, this series, just to tell you a bit about it, and there are going to be spoilers in this video, so I will mention that, so spoiler alert. But, yeah, so the events of this series take place 34 years after the first Karate Kid film. And I could remember when the first Karate Kid film came out in 1984. It was very well received. In fact, I could remember kids coming back from school after summer break, and the teacher asked them, "What did you do over the summer?" The kind of thing the teacher would usually ask, "What did you do over the summer?" And all the kids said was, this was a few kids too, all they said was, "I saw the Karate Kid." They didn't mention anything else. They didn't mention anything about a trip they might have gone on. They just mentioned that they had seen the Karate Kid. And I saw it as well, and I liked it. I did like the movie. So I definitely wanted to see this series to find out, what became of these characters. Now, the series starts out where kind of shows you what has happened to the character of Johnny Lawrence. Now, if you remember, Johnny Lawrence was the bad guy from the first Karate Kid film, and Daniel Larusso was the good guy from the first Karate Kid film. However, this series doesn't do the whole good guy, bad guy paradigm thing. This series kind of shows that the situations are complex and multi-layered. So it doesn't really do that whole good guy, bad guy paradigm the way the original 1984 movie did. But yeah, you see things from Johnny Lawrence's perspective, and you definitely empathize with the character, because you could see that the character is definitely down on his luck, has gone through some hard times, has done some hard living. He's been through some difficult situations, although you don't know what. But lives in kind of this rundown apartment, and they really show you things from his perspective a lot more in this. You find out that he was the way he was in the first Karate Kid film because he had a rich but abusive stepdad who's played by Ed Asner in this series. So they kind of tell you why he was the way he was. And there are some elements of comedy in this series as well. There were some elements of comedy in the original Karate Kid movie. In fact, Pat Morita, the guy who played Mr. Miyagi, was actually a stand-up comedian. The accent of Mr. Miyagi was actually one of the accents Pat Morita would do, like a Japanese accent. He actually didn't talk like that. And, you could hear the way he really spoke and the other things he did, like Happy Days or Sanford and Son. But yeah, Pat Morita was definitely underrated as an actor. He certainly was. He had quite a bit of range. He could do a lot of different impressions and voices, but they do pay homage to him in this series, and there is mention of the fact that Mr. Miyagi has died, that he died back in 2011, because there is a scene where Daniel Larusso goes to visit Mr. Miyagi's grave. But, yeah, like I said, getting back to the comedy of this series, there are some funny moments in this. The character of Johnny Lawrence is a lot like a character who, in many ways, is still kind of stuck in the 80s. It's as if they took that character from the 80s, plucked him out of the mid-80s, and brought him into modern times. Because at one point, he even asks, what's Facebook? So you could tell the character is still very much living in this analog 1980s world. But, yeah, there's other funny elements in it as well. And, they do kind of poke fun a little bit at the original movie. There's some things in it that are kind of amusing. They show clips from the original movie as well. And you can also see like a role reversal here, because the character of Johnny Lawrence is now working as a maintenance man, just like Mr. Miyagi was in the first Karate Kid film. And there's even a scene where this kid is being bullied by these other kids. The kid's name is Miguel, and he's being jumped by these bullies. And Johnny Lawrence intervenes and rescues the kid and beats up the bullies, and then agrees to teach Miguel karate. And there's just some funny things that happen as well, because at one point, Johnny tells Miguel to go listen to some Guns N' Roses, and Miguel goes, "What's Guns N' Roses?" And Johnny goes, "I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear you say that." So yeah, there's some funny things in this series. And another thing is Johnny drives around in this Pontiac Firebird, I believe it is, and every time he gets in the car, there's this 80s rock that's playing, like Poison. So I thought that was cool how they did that. I thought that was cool. And there's even a montage in this where it shows Johnny driving around, very much like a 1980s montage that you would have had in an 80s movie. So, yeah, definitely some amusing things. Johnny's Pontiac Firebird then ends up getting totaled, so he has to go and get it repaired at a car dealership. Well, Daniel Larusso owns the car dealership, because Daniel Larusso's actually been doing pretty good. Things have been going well for him. He has a wife, he has a couple kids. One's a teenage girl, the other's like a preteen son, I believe. And yeah, things have been going good for him. I think he even has multiple car dealerships. And he has this commercial where if you buy a car from him, he'll even throw in a bonsai tree for free. So I thought that was cool, because if you remember in Karate Kid 3, he opened up a bonsai shop with Mr. Miyagi. So he'll even throw a bonsai tree in for free. So Johnny Lawrence, he has to get his car repaired, so he ends up going to this car dealership. Daniel Larusso recognizes Johnny and approaches him, and there's a bit of a exchange where they kind of reminisce a little. And, Daniel LaRusso mentions that, he got Johnny Lawrence with that, crane kick at the end. And, Johnny says that, that was an illegal kick. And, there's some other things are mentioned as well. So I thought that was kind of amusing. Then you kind of wonder if Daniel LaRusso is going to be the bad guy in this, because you're not sure in that scene. But then he pulls out of it, and Daniel LaRusso immediately offers to repair Johnny Lawrence's car free of charge. So you could tell that Daniel LaRusso is still a good guy, and is still trying to apply the teachings of Mr. Miyagi in his day-to-day life. So, what then happens at the very end of the episode, Johnny Lawrence is in the parking lot of the car dealership with the bonsai tree that Daniel Larusso gave him, and Johnny Lawrence throws the bonsai tree to the ground. And immediately you know something's going to happen. You know things are not over between the two of them. And it's kind of interesting because you could tell throughout this season of this series that Johnny Lawrence and Daniel Larusso actually have a lot in common. And, had they been properly introduced, they probably could have been good friends. But they never were properly introduced. It was kind of a love triangle situation that they were involved in. Johnny Lawrence, like I said, Johnny Lawrence is often referred to as being a bully in the first Karate Kid film. And I guess you could say he was a bully, but not in the traditional archetypal sense of, the big kid picking on the little kid. It was more of a love triangle situation in the Karate Kid. But, even someone, and I saw a YouTube video of this, someone even mentioned the fact that the love interest, Allie, from the first Karate Kid film, may have been the villain because she created all this conflict and friction between Johnny Lawrence and Daniel Larusso, and she ends up leaving Johnny Lawrence, and then she ends up leaving Daniel Larusso, and created all this conflict between the two of them. So I thought that was kind of an interesting perspective, interesting way to, look at all of this. But, yeah, like I said, definitely do empathize a bit more with Johnny Lawrence in this series. Because I can remember seeing the original Karate Kid movie, and I hated the character of Johnny Lawrence. Absolutely hated the character. But he's much more likable in this series. And yes, the series goes on. You see that Johnny Lawrence decides that he wants to bring back the Cobra Kai dojo. If you remember, the Cobra Kai dojo was what he belonged to, and it was run by a guy by the name of Kreese. So Johnny Lawrence gets like a Cobra Kai dojo in like a strip mall area, and Miguel is his first student. Then he gets some more students, and they make these students out to be, I guess kind of nerdy in the beginning. Then I think they kind of toughen up a bit. Some of the kids you could kind of see have kind of a mean streak to them. And you kind of wonder, is, this Cobra Kai training bringing out kind of a bad side in them? You don't really know. But, so, yeah, you could see that, Johnny Lawrence wants to kind of teach them the ways of, Cobra Kai, because the world needs that today, which is what he claims. And, the series does kind of poke fun of, like, the whole, social justice warrior movement a bit. And, you could kind of, there are, like, references, like, to the movement. I don't know if they actually mention it. And the series, as far as, I can tell, doesn't get political or anything like that. So, yeah, just a great series. Great writing. And, Johnny Lawrence, like I said, kind of takes on some of the characteristics of the Cobra Kai sensei, Kreese, which, interestingly enough, to say something about the character Kreese, supposedly the guy who played the character Kreese in the first Karate Kid movie modeled that character after Count Dante, which is a character I talked about in another video I did, or an individual that I talked about in another video. So, I thought that was interesting. I know Wikipedia used to mention, I don't know if it still does, that the character Kreese was based on Count Dante. So, thought I'd throw that out there because I did do a video on Count Dante. But, anyway, yeah, you find out as the series goes on that Johnny Lawrence actually has a son. And he hasn't seen his son in a while. Son's getting into trouble. And, you find out Johnny Lawrence was kind of a deadbeat dad, although, again, you don't really find out why, but his son is getting in trouble, and his son actually goes to get a job working at the car dealership of Daniel Larusso, and Daniel Larusso takes Johnny Lawrence's son as his karate student, and he teaches him a form of karate much like the form of karate that Mr. Miyagi had taught him, a much more philosophical, spiritual form of karate. So what then happens is there's a karate tournament that's going to be held. The same karate tournament from the first movie, although it's going to be like the 50th one. And Cobra Kai is actually banned from this karate tournament because of the events that happened in Karate Kid Part 3. And I was surprised to see that there were some references to Karate Kid Part 3, because they do mention the fact that Cobra Kai was banned because of the actions of Kreese and the character Terry Silver. You know, Terry Silver was the guy that joined up with Kreese to try to get Daniel Larusso to enter the karate tournament again so they could win back the trophy, the title for Cobra Kai. So eventually, you know, the ban is lifted and Cobra Kai is able to enter the tournament, and, you know, sort of accumulates with this karate tournament. And yeah, it's just, you know, just an excellent series. And it ends, the season ends with a cliffhanger. It makes you want to watch the next season. It really does. I mean, I was ready. I can't wait for the next season to come out. I think, although I'm not 100% certain, but I think it's coming out in January, from what I can remember. I think January. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I think it's January. But yeah, it does end in kind of a cliffhanger. I'm not going to say what it is, but there is a bit of a cliffhanger at the end of this series. So all in all, I thought it was excellent. If I were to give it a ranking, I would put it at 10 out of 10 stars. It's that good. So, yeah, and just another thing I did kind of want to throw out as well is I actually did meet Ralph Macchio. And I think I mentioned that in another video where I was at like a Comic-Con and I saw that he was there and he was leaving. It was toward the end of it. So I just walked up to him. And I didn't mention anything about the Karate Kid to him. I said that I always liked the movie Crossroads. And he just goes, "That's a good one." You know, so I thought that was pretty cool. But that's all I've got. You know, if you've watched this video, as always, I thank you for watching. Have a good day.